friends, and welcome to the Soup of the Week. My name is Mr. Jeff. You are used to seeing me do children's programs, but I thought I would branch out a little bit since January is National Soup Month. So I am going to be leading you through a different soup recipe 4 of the 5 weeks of this month, and I hope that you will join me every week for some fantastic recipes that I found from a lot of different places. So this week I will be leading you through a cabbage soup recipe that I've modified from my mother's recipe. So I have all of my ingredients assembled here. These are all of the things you're going to need to make this fantastic recipe. So I have 2 cloves of garlic that I was in the process of breaking out of this hunk of something before I started filming. I'm easily distracted. Whoop, and there goes my clove. But I have 2 cloves of garlic. Perfect. We're done with this. I have a whole yellow or sweet onion. Oh my gosh, there's a cat on my counter. Get out of here. Get out of here, please. Okay. This is what happens when you film in your own kitchen. So, I have 2 cloves of garlic. I have 1 whole yellow or sweet onion. I have carrots, I have celery, I have baby carrots. Now if you don't want to use the baby carrots as well, you want to stick with this instead of the whole carrots, you can obviously modify these recipes for whatever you have in your kitchen, whatever you prefer in your soup. I have 1 head of cabbage. I'm using red skin potatoes for my recipe. I said 3 or 4, you can add as many as you like. Not use the potatoes if you want to make this carb-free. I like to use half chicken stock, half vegetable stock for my soup, but if you wanted to use all vegetable stock, all chicken stock, modify for your preferences. Then when my mom makes this, she usually makes a ham before she makes the soup. I didn't want to make a whole ham, so I just bought myself a bone-in ham steak so that I can add the ham because my mother always adds ham to her cabbage soup. I also have some olive oil back here. My stock pot's ready to go. So let's jump in. The only prep work I have done beforehand is I have peeled my carrots and potatoes and I've washed my hands thoroughly because you always want to wash your hands before cooking, obviously. But if you don't, it's your food, your kitchen, live on the edge, friends. So let's dive right in here. I'm going to start by chopping my garlic, onion, carrots, and celery. So I'm gonna grab a big old knife over here. I'm gonna start with my garlic. So I always press my garlic and then mince it up, throw it right into my stock pot. So I don't have any heat in my stock pot yet, it's just hanging over there. I'm gonna cut all 4 of these ingredients, the garlic, onion, carrot, celery, before I start that heat because we want to be putting these all into the stock pot at once on a nice hot pan to saute them together until our onions start to get a little translucent. So let's get all of that work done together right now. So my garlic is crushed and we are gonna just give this a nice mince together. This is so exciting, friends. So I've only ever done one other cooking program. We've done a few children's baking programs over the years, but I did back in October a toxic waste mac and cheese program that was a lot of fun. But the thing I found while I was filming it was I didn't know what to talk about while I was prepping all my ingredients. So I'm just gonna talk. And if you don't wanna listen, feel free to fast forward till the next step. If you just wanna watch this to kind of figure out what's going on and then put it together at home later. This is being pre-recorded, but it will be streamed live. So if you throw a question in the comments, I won't be able to respond to it right here in the video, but I am monitoring this live stream and I will be able to answer your questions in the comments. So throw your questions at me, throw your messages at me, and I can respond in the comments, but I won't be acknowledging you in the video because this has been pre-recorded. Because that's what kind of time I have in my life right now. So I'm throwing my minced garlic right in here, into my stock pot. But my stock pot's not doing much of anything right now. There's no heat. It's just hanging on my stove top. I'm gonna go after my onion next. So I always like to give this a few slices and then peel out that outer layer, that useless dry skin layer. So, confession, I love to cook. I know how to follow a recipe, but I would not say I am some master chef by any means. So if you have really, really specific questions, I'm gonna refer you to the reference desk because I might not be able to answer them, but I will do my darndest. I will do my very best to answer your questions, friends. Because after all, this is my mother's recipe, and she doesn't do it quite like I do it. I don't think she uses garlic. She does a few things a little differently than I'm gonna do today. But like I said, I've modified it based on some other recipes that I followed. I once made a very healthy cabbage soup, much healthier than this one. And that recipe started by sauteing some ingredients in the stock pot before adding the broth and a few things I'm gonna do today with you. So yeah, the more you cook, the more you see, oh, they did this and not that. Oh, I'm gonna try that with this recipe, see what works for you, and then you modify. That's how you learn. And I'm learning. So I'm just giving my onion a pretty fine chop. If you like big chunks of onion in your soup, you can give it a rough chop and just put it off to the side. But I like pretty fine onion. This is mostly for flavor, of course, but I don't like to come across huge chunks of onion in my soup. I get that from my father. Woo, my goodness. I know how to use a knife, friends. So if you are having the kiddos help out in the kitchen, give them kiddo-friendly jobs. I know you're used to seeing me do all kinds of programs for kids. Peeling of carrots and potatoes is a great kiddo job. Washing of vegetables is a great kiddo job. Stirring of the pot, once we're adding all those ingredients, great little helper job. So I am a very big fan of teaching kids how to cook because it's a life skill that we can always learn. Never too soon. I am pretty happy with how my onions are looking. So I'm just gonna add my onion, celery, and carrots into this bowl so I can add them all to the stock pot while it's hot, while the olive oil in there is hot, and the garlic is ready to go with it. Because we kind of want that all to happen at once. There's onions going everywhere. Okay, we've got all of our onions in that bowl. I'm gonna move on to my carrots. I just like to cut that very end part off because that's not appetizing. We don't want that in our soup. So I am throwing, the recipe says 2 cups chopped carrot. That's really a guesstimation. I'm using 4 carrots because that looks about right for what I want today. You can do as much or as little as you like. I also tend to do a thing where I cut my carrot in half. The thinner side I chop whole right through the full thickness of the carrot, but the thickest end of the carrot I do chop down the middle. That's just how I like to do it. You chop your carrots however you like to, but to me this just gives me some nice variation of shape in my soup. I feel like it's bite-sized. You know, when you're using a spoon and eating your soup later, you really want huge, huge honks of carrot in your spoon. Just, I like everything to be kind of bite-sized and pleasing in a spoon. I'm trying to do this one. Woo! Trying to do too much, friends. If you have favorite soup recipes, I would love to hear those in the comments. The lineup, if you've seen the posts on the Facebook page, this week we're doing cabbage soup. Next week we're doing a taco lentil soup. It's actually going to be a vegetarian soup. I think the website, I found that recipe that we're doing next week on a website called Ambitious Kitchen. It is really awesome that later this month we'll be doing a chicken soup that I found from that same website, Ambitious Kitchen. That the woman who makes that website makes some really tasty recipes that I'm pretty sure she said the taco lentil could even be vegan and gluten-free. So that's a pretty cool one if you have some dietary restrictions that you're working with. And the last soup of the month that I'm planning is New England clam chowder. It's the New York Times recipe that is delicious. My roommate made it for me once. He was like, "You're never gonna eat clam chowder from a can again," and I think he's right. So we're moving on to our celery. I've got all 4 of my carrots chopped up in there. I always like to chop off that kind of brown, dry, scary end of the celery because, again, just not so appetizing. I want to make sure we throw that out immediately. And then for me, these super rooty ends, I just like to chop a little bit of that off. Not too much. We don't want to waste too much of our vegetable here, but just a little bit. And then again, a rough chop here. Keeping bite size in mind, but if you chop to your desired celery size for your soup. I think we're ready to turn on our stovetop, friends. That's my dog. If you hear a howling dog in the background, that's just my dog Pluto. I've chopped all my celery. We're ready to move to our stovetop, friends. So let's get our celery in our bowl here. Beautiful. Okay, so as we move to our stovetop, we want like a medium high. Throw a little olive oil in there with my garlic that we added earlier. I've got my wooden spoon, a little wooden spatula here. We're gonna wait this to heat up just a touch. Then we're gonna add our bowl of ingredients that we've just chopped and prepped, which is our onion, our carrots, and our celery. It's always terribly exciting waiting for that stuff, but this is a great time to do some cleanup if you have just been kind of working on the fly. You could start some prep work with your cabbage. I like to pay pretty close attention to my stovetop at this point. And make sure you grab your vegetable and or chicken stock because that's going to be going in here pretty soon. Pretty soon. Yep, I'm feeling some heat. And we want to add all of these to a nice hot stock pot. Yes, we can hear that sizzle, see some sizzle, so I'm adding all of my ingredients right in here. Woo! Pop, 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 pop. Yes, that sound is exactly what we want. Here we go. Everything out of there. And we're going to saute these for about 5 to 8 minutes or until the onions start to get a little translucent. And I'm going to keep agitating this pretty regularly, not constantly, but we want to first make sure that oil coats everything nice and evenly. I'm going to add just a pinch of salt to start seasoning here. A lot of salt. Pluto saying hello to all of you. My dog in the background. And a few grinds of pepper. This soup is going to need a lot of seasoning by the end. And again, making sure we agitate, evenly distribute until those onions start to show some translucent. Usually takes about 5 to 8 minutes. You can see these thinner onions are really starting to look pretty good already, but the thicker chops we want to give a minute or two more. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking, so I'm going to add my chicken and vegetable stock right into the pot. And here comes my chicken stock. Now that we've added our stalks, we can add our baby carrots and then start working on chopping up these other ingredients and getting them in there. So I'm gonna add half of this bag, about. You can add as much or as little as you like, but I like to get about half of this in there. Maybe a little more than half. This is a small bag. Lots of carrots. So we're ready to add our cabbage. I like to cut out the core as I chop up my cabbage. So my preferred method of this is to chop my cabbage directly in half. You gotta really get in there. Yep. There we go. And you can see exactly where that core is. So I like to cut that out at this stage, just kind of wedge in there. I'm sure this is not the safest way to do this, but it's how I do it. And then that is right in the garbage. So then when this is in half, chop it in half again. And then I slice through this perpendicular wise and add those shreds right to my soup. I try to fit my entire, my dog Pluto just wants to be involved. I try to fit the entire head of cabbage into my soup if I can, but if, depending on the size of the pot you're using, you may not be able to. And remember, we have potatoes and ham to go in there too, so don't add more than you can fit. So I've got a quarter cabbage here that I'm then going to slice perpendicular to my cuts that are already there. And I cut them pretty thin. So like, it's like maybe centimeter to half a centimeter. My slices are not even, they're not pretty, but they work. So I am gonna take that entire quarter cabbage, throw it right into my stock pot, break it up a little bit as it goes in, but as this does its thing, it's gonna work. I don't know how else to put it. It's all gonna happen. Just the leftovers. If you get another piece of core as you're chopping, again, I don't like to use those. They're pretty tough and solid even after sitting in the soup. They don't chew well. So this is starting to look pretty full after just half of my cabbage. At this point, I would do one of two things. I would either stop adding cabbage so I could get room in my other ingredients, or if you really want to beef up your stew, you could add another container of stock, vegetable or chicken. If you didn't get that, if you don't have that around, stop adding, get some other ingredients in there. So let's add some other ingredients. Let's chop up 2 potatoes, since that's looking pretty full. Again, I've already peeled my potatoes. I use red skin. You can use any kind of potato you like. We're just gonna give these a really rough chop. I like some chunks of potato in this soup. Again, just trying to get those down to bite size. So that's about the cube size that I put into my soup. My mother puts in some pretty honkin' chunks of potato and it is delicious. So really make your soup for your audience. My stock pot is looking very full. Okay, the last ingredient to go in is, if you're adding meat to your soup, ham. So I have my ham steak here. I like to cube up my ham. My mother adds huge chunks and shreds of ham. I like some order to my life. So I cut nice little strips. This dog is too much. Chef's treat. And then I just cube up some ham. This adds a really nice bit of flavor to the soup. It adds a ton of sodium in a good way. And really, really, really some meaty taste to our soup. The amount of ham you'd like to add, again, is completely up to you. I'm probably gonna add about this entire ham steak, as much as I can. Now friends, this is the moment that I said if you have more stock, you could add it. I happen to have another container of vegetable stock, so I'm just gonna top off my soup so that I can fit more of these ingredients I have in there because they're already prepped. I don't want them to go to waste. So I'm just gonna add a little more to my soup. Give myself some room to squeeze in some more ingredients. If you don't have more vegetable stock, don't worry about this. This is what I'm doing, you do you, but this is an extra step, an optional step. Don't feel like you need to run out and grab more stock just because that's what I'm doing. Because this soup would be just as delicious if I had left it as it was. Now, okay, there's a lot of potatoes in there. I'm probably not gonna put in this last potato. But I can get in at least another quarter of this and some more ham. Okay friends, once everything you want is in your pot, what we're gonna do is add more salt and pepper. We want to bring the pot to a boil and then let it simmer for at least an hour. Once our carrots and potatoes are cooked through, it's ready to serve. So here we go. Let's add some pepper. I'm going to give this a healthy dose because my stock pot is very full. I'm going to give it at least 2 healthy dashes of salt here. We're gonna give it a good stir. Now I know my Facebook recipe, my ingredients had basil on it. I don't know how that got on there. I'm pretty sure my mother does not use basil and I've never added basil to this before. If you wanted to, I guess you could. I don't know why basil was on there. Ignore basil. I am gonna throw the bone of my ham into the soup for flavor while it boils and simmers. Then I'm gonna make sure to fish this back out before I start serving my soup. But the bone is gonna it's gonna add some incredible flavor to the soup. So we're gonna remember that, friends. There's a ham bone in this soup. Okay, it looks like we've got some bubbles happening here. Yes, it's not a full boil, but we're seeing some things happening. So I'm gonna turn my heat down. I'm gonna partially cover this. I'm gonna let this simmer for at least an hour. I'm gonna set a timer even. As soon as the potatoes and carrots are cooked through, it is ready to serve. Okay, so I'm partially covering. I will be back with you in 1 hour. Okay, friends, it's been about an hour. Let's check on our potatoes and carrots. Let's see. This looks delicious. So I've got a potato here. Yes, potatoes seem done. Carrots seem done. Knife went through both of those really easily. Let's do a little taste test. Of course, this is going to be piping hot. Let's see what else it needs. I think it needs quite a bit more salt. I'm pretty stingy on the salt while I'm cooking because it's easy to add more later, not easy to take it back out. So let's season this baby up. Give it just a sprinkle. This is a pretty darn big stock pot of soup. Don't pay any attention to the sounds of my dog drinking from his water bowl. Grab a slotted spoon. That ham bone that has done everything it can do. Elsewhere. Get another taste here. The beautiful thing about the soup, you can add as many vegetables as you want. You could add corn to this, peas, you could add anything. So feel free to really dress it up, friends. That's quite delicious. So that is my mother's recipe for cabbage soup to bring in the new year. You could probably still use a little more salt, but you can always add salt, you can't take it out. So I think I'm pretty happy with this. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Join me again next Monday for taco lentil soup. The event is posted and all of the ingredients you need are right on there. So feel free to check that out. Join me next Monday, and thank you so much. Check out all of the programs that are happening at your local libraries, and stay safe and healthy, friends. See you later. Say goodbye, Pluto. Bye-bye, everybody. I'm sorry I was so loud. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You're famous.